I recently had a very terrible idea, and I thought I would share that with you. Full disclosure, I don't think this is a good idea, but maybe you should take this terrible idea and run with it. What if, at the start of your game, all of your characters rolled everything completely random? What would happen? Today we're going to find out on Rolling with Advantage. So the idea for random character creation was something that I thought, I want to shake it up, and I see a lot of the same types of characters, same races, same classes, same builds, and I was like, let's just do something to force people to be crazy and out of the box. So I was talking to my buddy Danny, and I was like, hey Danny, what do you think about this? And he said, that's a great idea. So I said, well, how about you give me a random, race, and I basically numbered all of the races, and he went to random number generator and he came up with a Furbolg, and I'm like, okay, now do the same thing for class and the same thing for description, and this is what we came up with. So his character is a Furbolg, his class is a Paladin, and his background is criminal specific to Baldur's Gate. And when I threw that together, I was like, this doesn't work. I mean, why would a Furbolg Paladin be a criminal? And the more we started talking about it, the more we started to come up with this idea. And now we think, well, this is actually a really good idea, because there's actually a lot of really happy accidents with this character we never would have seen before. Particularly with the criminal having deception and stealth, we go over to race, and the Furbolg, you would never think to be the rogue, but he has hidden step, and as a bonus action, he can turn invisible at the start of his turn. So if you put that together with the criminal, I was like, that's pretty good ability. Furbolg magic also allows him to disguise self, and I was like, maybe a Furbolg would be a pretty good criminal. I never really would have thought about that. Because if you look at the stats, so many of our builds we're looking, if I'm building a rogue, I need dexterity, I need charisma. Well, Furbolg doesn't have any of that. And then, okay, well, you put those two things together, but we go to class. Well, why would a paladin, none of this works, right? Or does it? As we started playing around with it, we actually had our session 0. We figured out that this does work. There is a way to roleplay this, and it's something outside the box we never would have built. We never would have put this together. And so for the first time ever, I'm going to have a game with a Furbolg criminal paladin. I'm like, this is great. So then my second player, Laszlo, I was telling him about it, and he played in my Hyperborea game, and he did his random character. So when I said, let's do random 5th edition, I was honestly kind of shocked when he said, absolutely, let's do it. So he rolled, same thing we did before. He rolled a race, he rolled Dragonborn, and then I said, well, we've got to roll random on the ancestry, and he came up with Bronze. So he's a Bronze Dragonborn, he's a fighter. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. He's a strength character, race, strength, that all works. And then I was like, what's your description? And he rolls a sailor, which, happy accidents, Bronze ancestry, they like the water. This works. This actually is easier to work. Then he rolled his stats, and we decided, I had a funny conversation with him. I said, okay, how do you want to do stats? And he said, well, we can't do point buy. That would almost be cheating since we rolled everything else random. So let's roll our random stats. And I said, well, do you want to roll it down the line? Like first roll is strength, second roll is dex. And it was really funny because Laszlo said, well, I don't want to end up with a fighter with 8 strength. I'm like, well, why don't you just roll the stats and see what you come up with? And this is what he came up with. He doesn't have an 8 strength, he has a 10 strength. He has a 10 dexterity, so he can't even finesse his way out of it. But if you look at the back half of his stats, they're really strong. Constitution really high, a very intelligent character. He has good wisdom, solid charisma. And then once you add the racial bonuses, you end up with a 12 strength, 10 dex, 16 constitution, 15 intelligence, 14 wisdom, and 14 charisma. Now, as a DM, I was like, look, I don't want you to play a character that you feel doesn't work. So, if we want to re-roll the stats, we can, or if you want to switch things around. He said, I don't know, I like the idea of doing something different, something random. So much to the credit of Laszlo, he decided I'm going to lean into it. So he's going to play this character, a low strength, low dex fighter. I know it's not min-max, but his idea of playing this highly intelligent philosopher, dragonborn, I like this. I like the idea that we're not seeing the same character that we see over and over and over again. And I'm very interested to see how he's going to do this. And spoiler alert, I think he's leaning on going towards the Echo Knight, which will kind of make up for some of the damage because of some of the cool tricks you can do with the new Unearthed Arcana Echo Knight. Also, that subclass really likes having a high constitution, which he has. So there's a way that we made this work. So I'm excited to see our bronze dragonborn sailor fighter. I think this is going to be fun. Now, our third and final player for this campaign, I'm only going to do 3 characters for this. I was telling Wes, hey, we're doing random characters. He said, okay, what do you got so far? And I told him, I said, I've got a paladin, I've got a fighter. He says, all right, well, let's roll it up. So this is what he came up with, a Triton. He's like, I'm a merman? I'm like, no, Triton's a little bit different. So he rolls a Triton, which I was excited about. I've never had a Triton in one of my games, and I've always been curious to play around with this. Plus, we have a sailor, so hey, we'll take a Triton. And he's like, well, what class am I going to roll? And he rolls up a monk. I'm like, okay, so we have a Triton monk who is a charlatan, also in Baldur's Gate. So we randomly rolled 2 of the Baldur's Gate's backgrounds, so the game will start in Baldur's Gate. And this is not a class race combo Wes would have ever put together. I never would have put a Triton monk together. And as we started talking about, his story and why he's, doing what he's doing, it made a lot of sense. Like we figured out, I've got a lot of veteran players that really sat down and said, okay, how can we make this work? What makes sense? And as the story kind of evolved through our level 0 game that I put up on the channel, and as we get ready to do our first session, I'm excited to see what this motley crew is going to be. I mean, we've got a monk, a fighter, and a paladin. It's going to be heavy martial. We don't have a lot of magic. We have a little bit of healing with the paladin. We have some spell-like effects with the Triton. He can cast Fog Cloud. But this is going to be a very different campaign. It may actually feel more old school D&D, where we're not going to have a lot of crazy cantrips and wombo combo stuff. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm interested in this. I'm interested in a game that's going to see a lot of players come together and play race class combos we never really see. And I'm excited to see what this looks like. So if any of you, and if you're curious, hang on, let's for the Triton, his abilities really straight down the middle. Like Wes actually rolled, I think, numerically the best of the 3. So his stats are good across the board. If we want to go back and take a look at our Paladin stats, he's okay as well. So they kind of rolled middle of the road. We don't have any crazy high stats. The highest stat I think we have belongs to our fighter and constitution. But these are their characters, and I'm very curious to see what some veteran players with some unorthodox characters can do in this game. We're going to be playing a 5th edition conversion of Isle of Dread, which I'm excited about. So we're going to start in Baldur's Gate and kind of go from there. So if you have ever tried random characters, I'd love to hear from you. If you think this is a terrible idea, I would love to hear from you as well, because it could be a terrible idea. Quick tip though, if you think you're going to do something like this, as a DM out there, I would, 2 things. 1, you have to get the players to buy in, and 2, the DM has to not force something onto somebody. If they roll something that just flat does not work at all, he's got a 4 strength and he's a barbarian, you're going to have to, help him out. We had some really fortunate rolls and things kind of go our way, but it did allow us to have this opportunity to put some things together we never would have normally. So if you would like to follow this game, we will be posting our actual play videos on the channel, and if you would like, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you at the table. Until next time, keep rolling with advantage.